Shen Lang wakes up in a world where everyone sees him as a useless son-in-law, but that insult becomes his camouflage. He cannot overpower nobles with martial arts, so he starts beating them with diagnosis, business tricks, and fearless humiliation. Spoiler warning for chapters 1 through 10. This Chinese manhwa starts with a modern man thrown into an ancient household where rank, money, marriage, and reputation decide who gets protected and who gets crushed. Shen Lang's new identity is not respected at all. He is treated as a burden, a joke, and sometimes a target. But the twist is that he does not need to become the strongest fighter overnight. His advantage is information. He notices what others miss, reads situations quickly, and turns every accusation into a trap for the people trying to bury him. The opening chapter begins with a man who achieved impressive success but still failed to win the woman he wanted. Then a disaster erupts in a modern medical-looking scene, and the next thing he knows, he wakes in an ancient wooden room as a battered long-haired man. The household reacts to him with panic and contempt, making it clear this body belongs to a disgraced son-in-law. Shen Lang has to understand his situation while servants, women of the estate, and officials pull him into disputes he barely understands. What makes him dangerous is the strange perception he starts showing. He studies a mysterious object and appears to diagnose a sick young woman, which draws suspicion instead of gratitude. By night, masked attackers confront him in the forest, but his glowing-eyed defiance proves this new life will not be quiet. Chapter 2 keeps Shen Lang in survival mode. In a blue forest, wounded and ragged, he notices blood on his finger and discovers that when it touches a cloth or paper, hidden red writing appears. The exact message is not safely readable, but the reaction around him makes it feel like proof, warning, or deadline. Several armed and muscular men surround him, while a stern glowing-eyed figure appears in a dark dramatic panel, suggesting a threat, memory, spirit, or symbol of danger. Shen Lang is not in control yet, but he is starting to understand that this world hides rules inside blood, status, and fear. As figures move through the moonlit forest, the chase continues. The chapter ends near a lit settlement and house, turning wilderness danger into trouble waiting at someone's door. Chapter 3 brings Shen Lang back to a poor family space, injured and surrounded by anxiety. His family gathers in a rough cave-like home, and the staging makes the emotional damage obvious. His father appears angry and shaken, his mother is vulnerable, and the women nearby react with worry or alarm. A refined young woman also enters the situation, adding social tension that the family cannot simply ignore. Then Shen Lang's strange advantage becomes clearer. He examines his mother and activates a glowing green perception that looks like an internal medical scan, showing bones or meridian-like structures beneath the surface. Instead of being only the useless son, he may be the one person who can understand what is wrong. He prepares care or medicine, but the shadow of masked attackers and later shocking news keeps the family from feeling safe. Chapter 4 lets Shen Lang breathe, but only briefly. He recovers in a modest room where people tend to him with food, bowls, and quiet concern. A cheerful child or helper gives the scene a softer mood, while Shen Lang remains tense, as if he understands that shelter is temporary. After night passes, a spiky-haired armored young man appears at the doorway and escorts him away. That arrival changes the chapter from recovery to movement. Their group prepares to leave, but the road through the village is not peaceful. Rough-looking local men confront them, creating another test of whether Shen Lang can pass through danger without relying on brute force. The situation is handled without a clear fight, and the travelers continue through the countryside. The chapter's pressure is simple: Shen Lang has little time, little strength, and no safe place to stand still. Chapter 5 gives Shen Lang his first real public stage. He and his rougher companion arrive at Juxian Pavilion, a refined location where guards, attendants, and appearances matter. At first, the staff treat them like outsiders who do not belong, but Shen Lang stays calm and walks into the situation like he has already spotted the weak point. Inside, a well-dressed host takes charge, and the focus shifts to a golden cloth or brocade sample. The host and onlookers expect Shen Lang to be ignorant, but he uses technical knowledge to challenge the quality of the item. The chapter explains that a yellow silk-like material can be made from ordinary ingredients and is not the treasure it pretends to be. By exposing the pavilion's bright brocade as inferior, Shen Lang turns embarrassment into reputation damage. Then important visitors arrive because of him. Chapter 6 shows the backlash. Shen Lang is brought before household authorities and accused over a valuable formula or secret connected to colored cloth. The Su family side and surrounding officials pressure him as if the story is already decided. He is the low-status son-in-law, so he must be the thief. A young noblewoman confronts him, older men demand explanations, and several people laugh when he argues back. But Shen Lang refuses to panic. He insists the so-called secret is not truly unique and claims he can make something better. That changes the conflict from legal accusation to public proof. He explains enough of the dye principle to challenge their confidence, produces a vivid purple fabric, and interrupts a sale or auction. When the crowd sees the quality, the people who underestimated him have to face a humiliating truth. Chapter 7 widens the pressure beyond the brocade dispute. It opens indoors with formally dressed people gathered around a bright multicolored glow, and their reactions suggest concern rather than celebration. A seated young woman and several serious figures discuss or respond to the situation, making it feel like Shen Lang's actions have triggered a larger countdown. Then the chapter moves through a notice-like transition into mountains and forest. A large dark beast appears with an open mouth, creating sudden danger, while travelers move through greenery and action flashes through the scene. The exact details are unclear, but the structure is easy to follow. Private trouble is spilling into the outside world. By the end, a young woman in blue appears to be questioned or challenged in a courtyard or street, setting up another public confrontation. Chapter 8 shifts into military and official power. A wounded or mistreated young man is brought through a public setting filled with soldiers, banners, officials, and spectators. This is not just punishment. It is a performance meant to show who has authority. Then a red-armored mounted woman arrives with escorts and crashes into that controlled scene. Guards try to block her, but her aggressive entrance scatters the pressure and forces everyone to react. The scene later moves into an official hall, where nobles and authorities argue around the young man. A white-robed woman steps forward with an important status claim, and the chapter ends with shock over her connection to the Zhu family. The extra explanation of noble titles matters because this arc is not only about fists. Family rank can overturn an entire case. Chapter 9 continues the theme of repeated danger. A stern older man opens the chapter with a confrontational mood, while a young woman appears distressed and emotionally cornered. The story cuts into a blue-tone sequence with shadowy figures and a bright burst, suggesting a past rescue, attack, supernatural event, or memory that still hangs over the present. Then the chapter returns to warmer interiors, where hostile men and intimidating figures keep closing in. A woman appears weakened or lying down, and the tension becomes personal rather than political. The male lead steps into the pattern again. Someone is threatened, someone powerful assumes control, and Shen Lang refuses to stay politely out of the way. The chapter ends with him and the woman facing the aftermath together, making it clear this rescue pattern is becoming part of his reputation. Chapter 10 brings Lady Mulan to the center. She first faces a nervous young man who is clearly overwhelmed by her appearance, but she gives him very little emotional ground. Behind a screen, a shadowy seated man is visible, turning the meeting into something more guarded than romantic. Later, Mulan speaks privately with that hidden or confined man, and the conversation revolves around loyalty, freedom, and what she wants from him. His confidence unsettles her, especially when he reacts as if he understands the game better than expected. Then Mulan goes to the study room and confronts her family. Instead of obeying the arranged path, she rejects Shen Lang and explains that there is no closeness or real feeling between them. Her refusal becomes extreme when she says she would rather die than marry him. These 10 chapters establish the manhwa's real hook. Shen Lang is weak in the way this world measures strength, but strong in the way corrupt households fear most. He reads bodies, products, motives, and status traps. The brocade conflict proves that knowledge can damage a family's business phase, while Lady Mulan's refusal shows marriage politics may be the next battlefield. Shen Lang's path is not heroic cultivation in the usual sense. It is social warfare, comedy, revenge, and survival through shameless intelligence. That is chapters 1 through 10 recapped. Subscribe for the next part, where Shen Lang's schemes, Mulan's rebellion, and the noble family fallout should start colliding even harder.